My name is Dennis. For 12 years, I drove a school bus through the back roads of Cherokee National Forest. Same loop every morning. Same battered thermos. Same kids, more or less. You do a job like that long enough, you start to think you've seen everything. Fog, black ice, deer, drunks, even the occasional meth head darting out of the brush. You learn how to swerve without panicking, how to calm a crying kid while taking a curve at 30. You learn how to shut up and keep moving. But nothing prepared me for that thing. Not a bear, not a man, not anything I'd ever imagined could walk these woods. I never believed in werewolves or any of the creatures people claim to see in these woods on a daily basis, until I came face to face with a monster that fateful Thursday morning in October last year. It's been over a year now, and I still wake up soaked in sweat. I've lost just about everything since. The school district threw me under the damn bus, so to speak. Parents accused me of traumatizing their children. I've been called an attention seeker, a burnout, even a danger to society. My wife bailed on me, said I was obsessed, said I needed help, lost my job, my marriage, my house, and what little reputation I had in our corner of Tennessee, all for telling the truth. So this is it, the last time I tell the story. Believe me or don't, I don't give a damn anymore. I just want it out before I drink myself quiet for good. It was one of those mornings where the cold feels wet, still dark, fog creeping low between the trees. I left the depot around 6:30, same as always, going through half a gallon of black coffee while I waited for the heater to do its thing. I had 17 kids on the route, all primary school age ranging from 1st to 5th grade, little ones with backpacks too big for their bodies, still waking up as they climbed aboard. They were scattered across a 30-mile loop through the back roads of Cherokee National Forest, their homes tucked into hollows and perched on gravel hillsides, miles from any town. Everything was normal until it wasn't. We'd just picked up the Simmons twins at their long dirt driveway. They were fighting over a Pokemon card, and I was already in no mood. About a mile down the road, I spotted something crouched in the lane ahead, just past the dip where the road narrows near the old Ranger trailhead. The fog hadn't quite cleared there. It clung to the blacktop like wet cotton, swirling low around the thing's silhouette. I eased off the gas. My first thought was, bear. Maybe gutting a deer. Happens out here. But something was off. Real off. The thing was on all fours, its chest pressed so close to the asphalt that its ribs brushed the spilled blood pooling beneath it. Its limbs cocked at sharp, unnatural angles, its head buried so deep in the cavity of the dead deer that it looked for a second like it might be wearing the animal as a mask. It faced away from the bus, but even from that angle, I could see it wasn't built like any animal I'd ever seen. It was too slender for a bear, its frame long and sinewy, with ridges of corded muscle stretching unnaturally along its back and haunches. Its spine was visible even through the thick, coarse hair, rising and falling in jagged rhythm as it fed. I could see the shoulder blades working beneath its coat with every ragged breath, heaving like a machine about to tear itself apart. The rhythm was all wrong, fast and uneven, like it was running hot, like it couldn't catch its breath or didn't care to. The whole thing pulsed with tension as the bus rolled closer, as if it was fighting the urge to spring up and bolt, or worse, turn on us. For a moment, I felt something primal, something ancient, grip the back of my throat and hold it shut. A deeply ingrained fear I had never felt before or after. I kept my hands locked on the wheel as the bus rolled forward, slow and steady, tires crunching damp gravel and wet leaves. My eyes squinted through the windshield, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Closer now, I got a better look at the thing's fur, if you could call it that. It was patchy, with some parts thick and oily, while others were so sparsely covered that the grayish-black skin underneath was completely exposed. It looked almost scorched, like it had crawled out of a fire and dragged the ashes with it. The fog and headlights painted everything in shades of pale gold and gray, and for a second, I thought maybe I was imagining it all. Maybe it was just a trick of the mist. But no, the shape was definitely real, unbothered, crouched over that bloody mass in the road like it belonged to it. The kids behind me hadn't noticed it yet. I could hear them chattering, laughing, a wrapper crinkling, someone whispering about a sleepover. The Simmons twins were still bickering over their damn card. It was just me and that thing locked in some kind of silent, dreadful prelude. I didn't want to alarm the kids, not yet, but my foot began easing toward the brake. I was maybe 20 feet away when the thing went rigid. It stopped feeding and raised its head, not turning around, just tensing every muscle in its body. The temperature inside the bus felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. Something primal screamed in the back of my head. I kept my mouth shut and stared harder. The thing jerked suddenly, snapping upright, not slowly like a man rising from a crouch. It just rose, one fluid, unnatural motion. No animal I'd ever seen moved like that. It towered, easily 8 feet tall, maybe more, covered in bristled fur, limbs too long for its frame, legs bowed like a dog's, but thick with muscle. Its limbs bent in a way that made my skin crawl, like it had too many joints, or maybe none at all. The front legs, if you could call them that, ended in long, gnarled hands that gripped the carcass with what looked like fingers, not paws, not hooves. Fingers with long, hooked claws. Its back was still turned, but the ears gave it away. They twitched, just slightly, locking onto the low murmur of the bus's tires and the old diesel engine. One ear turned sideways, then both. And then, with this slow, sickly grace, it began to turn its head. I froze. I didn't breathe. The bus was still coasting, but in that moment, everything else in the world just stopped. No wind, no engine noise, just that slow, deliberate rotation, like it wanted me to see every inch of its face. The muscles along its neck flexed with an unnatural elegance, vertebrae popping beneath fur like knuckles cracking. The turn wasn't rushed. It was measured, performed, as if it knew exactly how long it would take to break my nerve. That thing wasn't just revealing itself, it was unveiling, like a curtain drawing back on something too monstrous to be hidden any longer. The face that emerged from the side angle was straight out of some ancient nightmare. The snout was long and narrow, but not like a wolf's. It had a crooked, almost broken slope to it. Where a wolf's jaw would be elegant, this one was battered, its lips shredded in places and peeled back in a permanent sneer, exposing a dental graveyard of yellow, jutting teeth. Some were sharpened to points that didn't match the others, as if the mouth was made of parts stolen from different species and jammed together into a smile. Others were snapped off halfway, leaving jagged stumps that must have hurt to use. No two fangs matched. The upper canines reached almost to the base of the snout, and the lower set jabbed up past the lip line. I could see raw meat stuck between them, and what looked like bits of fur or sinew caught on the cracked edges. Beneath and behind the teeth, the thing's tongue lolled obscenely, black and split, like it had been bitten in half at some point and forced to heal. It flicked in and out as the creature raised its head fully. But the worst part, the part that still haunts me every night, was the eyes. They weren't glowing like in monster movies. They were wet, glossy, black, and sunken, like polished river stones dragged from muck, and there was something behind them. Not fear, not hunger, not instinct. Calculation. It wasn't just looking at me. It was seeing me, measuring, weighing, deciding whether to bolt or charge. That was the moment it all came crashing down. My gut dropped, like the floor had vanished beneath me. A jolt ran up my spine and settled in my chest like ice water. It wasn't fear. It was recognition. My brain fought it, tried to rationalize, to call it a deformed bear or a hallucination. But some ancient part of me knew better, knew exactly what I was looking at. A werewolf, plain and simple, not in the fairy tale sense, not like those bullshit movies and romance novels. This thing was raw, real, made of flesh, claws, teeth, and hunger, and it was looking straight at me. Something deep in my gut, some ancient animal instinct, took over. My conscious mind hadn't even finished processing what I was seeing, but my body had already decided. I slammed the brake pedal with every ounce of force I had, hard enough to rattle the dashboard and make the bus moan like it had taken a punch to the chest. Tires screeched. Metal groaned. The kids behind me erupted. A wave of shrieks and yelps exploded in the cabin. Several bodies thumped against seatbacks. A lunchbox flew through the air and hit the windshield with a dull slap. One of the smaller kids wailed like he'd been shot. The Simmons twins started shouting, one angry, one scared. I heard someone fall out of their seat, maybe two. The bus rocked slightly as it came to a complete, stuttering halt, but I didn't look back. All I could do was stare straight ahead, hands welded to the wheel, chest heaving, heart threatening to blow out through my ribs. That thing still hadn't moved, still had its eyes locked on mine. And now we weren't rolling anymore. We were dead still, less than 30 feet from this nightmare, separated only by a thin layer of glass. Every inch of me screamed to reverse, to flee, to run, but the part of me still in charge just sat frozen, locked in the awful realization that I'd brought myself and 17 kids within arm's reach of a goddamn werewolf. Then the kids began to notice it, one by one. It started with a sharp gasp behind me, then a rising wave of confused noise that crashed into full-blown panic in seconds. A girl shrieked, high-pitched and raw, and that cracked the dam. Children screamed, cried, scrambled. Some tried to duck behind seats, while others ran towards the end of the bus, stumbling over each other as they tried to get as far away from that thing as possible. The noise inside the bus was deafening, pure chaos. I couldn't speak, couldn't calm them. My mouth was open, but nothing came out. The werewolf was still there, staring, and now every child on that bus knew it. And all I could do was sit there, heart pounding in my skull, as their terror filled the cabin and that monster stared us down with patient, deliberate stillness. Then it moved towards the bus, just a few steps. It wasn't charging. It wasn't retreating. It was curious. Like a predator inspecting something it hadn't seen before. It leaned forward slightly and sniffed, nostrils flaring. Then it cocked its head to the side, ears twitching, eyes still fixed on the windshield like it was trying to figure out the shape of what was inside. That broke something loose inside me. Without thinking or planning, I slammed the bus into gear and pressed the gas pedal to the floor. The engine let out a deep groan as the whole bus jolted forward like a spooked animal. Kids screamed anew, some falling to the ground again, while others clutched the seatbacks. My hands shook on the wheel, eyes locked ahead. The werewolf flinched, not in fear, more like surprise. It took a quick step back, then bolted off to the side, vanishing into the underbrush with shocking speed, like smoke being sucked into the trees. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone, swallowed by the forest, as if it had never existed at all. But I didn't trust it. I kept one eye on the side mirror as the bus roared forward, expecting it to reappear and come after us at any moment. My hands were locked on the wheel, knuckles pale, waiting for the sound of claws scraping metal. But it didn't chase. Instead, just as the bus cleared the bend and the carcass was behind us, I saw it emerge again. It stepped out of the brush like it hadn't been spooked at all, casual, almost relaxed. It padded right back to the deer and tore into it with a frenzy, ripping and thrashing like it had been interrupted mid-feast. That image, the face, the claws, the blood, it's still with me, burned into the back of my skull. But the real nightmare started afterward. When we finally pulled up in front of the school, the doors hadn't even opened before the kids started pushing toward the front, desperate to get out. As soon as the doors parted, they flooded down the steps and toward the school building, crying, shouting, panicking. Some were babbling about a monster. Others screamed the word werewolf over and over like a siren. Teachers and staff looked stunned. Some ran to them. Others stood frozen as the chaos poured out of the bus. It didn't take long for the questions to start. The kids were hysterical, traumatized, understandably so. But I knew what was coming even before I parked the bus and stepped outside. The school needed an explanation, something simple, something they could put in a report. And most of all, they needed someone to blame. Naturally, that someone was me. They said I must have told the kids something, planted a story, spooked them, caused a panic. Some even accused me of playing a Halloween prank. The school counselor looked at me like I was unstable. The principal, red-faced and sweating, said I should have kept control, kept calm, kept things normal. But how do you keep things normal when you're staring into the face of something that isn't supposed to exist? I tried to play it smart. Told them the kids saw a bear gutting a deer. Said the fog and the panic made it worse. That maybe a few of the younger girls got spooked, and the rest caught the hysteria. I told the principal I hadn't said a word to them, that I kept my mouth shut the whole time. But he didn't buy it, wouldn't even pretend to. He looked at me like I looked at that werewolf creature, like I was the monster that had caused this PR nightmare. Said the children all told the same story. Said it didn't make sense for them to come up with something so weird on their own, unless someone had planted the idea. I knew what he meant. The word werewolf had gotten out, and this was the explanation that made the most sense. Within 72 hours, I was out of a job. No hearing, no union rep, just a phone call, a couriered letter, and silence. Then came the article in the local paper, some half-baked write-up about an incident on the school bus and allegations of unprofessional behavior by a district employee. They didn't use my name, but everyone knew who drove the backcountry route. Small town. Word spread faster than fire in a dry pine forest. Of course, my wife caught wind of it. The supposed love of my life. The one who said she'd stand by me through anything. Within a week of being fired, I was served on the porch of the house I had paid for. No conversation, no warning. Just papers in an envelope and a half-hearted apologetic smile from the process server. My wife claimed I was mentally unwell, a danger to myself, her, and others, that I'd endangered children and made up stories about monsters in the woods, like I hadn't spent the last 12 years heading out before dawn to pay for her damn handbags, SUV, and those stupid decorative pillows that cost $70 a piece. A few months later, I sat in court while her lawyer laid out a version of me I barely recognized. Paranoid, unstable, emotionally volatile. My so-called mental health issues were trotted out like I was some ticking time bomb that had finally gone off. They brought up things I'd never said, and so-called witnesses who confirmed every word. She got more than half. The house, the savings, even the damn dog. I got gutted, stripped down like that deer on the road. And just like that, the life I'd built for decades vanished into the trees. Sometimes I think it would have been better if that thing had just dragged me out of the bus and killed me on that damn road. At least it would have been quick. Instead, I've spent every day since rotting in the wreckage of what used to be my life. People think I made it all up, but let me leave you with this. If you ever find yourself anywhere near Cherokee National Forest, especially when it's dark, keep your eyes on the road and your foot on the gas. Don't stop. Don't get out of the car. And for God's sake, if you see something that looks like it doesn't belong, get the hell out of there. That thing's still out there. I know it. And it's not some legend, not a campfire story. It's real.